thank you for taking your time today. I just wanted to sit here and ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
So my first question is, what was your scariest moment, and what did you do to solve that solution?
My scariest moment in business was we went through about a 5-month period that we were not profitable. So I had to continue to put cash in the business for 5 months in a row. The reason it was scary is because I didn't know how long it would last. How long do you keep dumping money in until you realize you shouldn't have done that? Do you go 5 months? Do you go 6 months? Do you go 10 years? So it was scary those months where we weren't profitable. But we came out of it and we're doing okay. So.
Okay, so speaking of money, that leads me to my next question. Was it difficult to pay back your loans or expenses to start up your company?
In my particular case, I had saved a lot of money along the way. So I did not have to incur any loans, borrow any money. I had enough cash for myself to be able to do that. So no, there was no stress because I didn't have to borrow anything.
So what was your biggest accomplishment throughout the years?
I think we made our previous year's revenue all in 1 month.
Oh, wow.
So I made the previous year's revenue in 1 month. Now, it was Hurricane Harvey related, but we were in a position to where we had been an established company in the market. We had earned their trust, and we had the wherewithal to do the business. Just because the hurricane came in didn't mean that everybody was prepared to do the work. And we were, and a lot of people trusted us, and a lot of other companies hired us to do the work. So I'm very proud of that we reached that number of
awesome.
Our previous year's revenue in 1 month. So that's pretty exciting.
That's sweet. So what advice would you have for somebody starting out like me as a young person going into a business, not knowing anything?
I'd say 2 things. Number 1, just do research. You can't do too much research. In my particular case, I started a business in another city. So I had to do the market research on what they wanted, what they needed to hear, what was important to them. When I went to that city, I didn't have Spotify on, I didn't have satellite radio, I listened to the local radio. When I'm in the hotel, I watch the local TV stations just to get a real feel for that city. And just research the heck out of what you're doing and your competitors as well. They've spent money figuring out what to do. See if that's the direction you want to go. Don't copy them, of course. Make your own spin on it, but research, because you can never know too much. I think the second thing is it's going to be way easier than you think, and it's going to be way harder. It's way easier in the sense that the lowest common denominator of doing good business is just being a good human. So treat your employees right, pay your bills on time, don't rip people off, provide a good service or product, stand behind what you do. Just doing that stuff is pretty easy if you're a good human. But it's gonna be way harder because it's a lot of stress. People think of the freedom, both financially or being your own boss or making all the decisions. That's great, but it comes with a high price tag of time and stress and all that. So it's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. So just kind of roll with it and just try to just be good and try to balance out the stress and the money income at the same time.
Sweet. So that kind of brings me to my next question. What do you do differently in your market that targets your customers better than other companies?
As far as acquiring the customers?
Yes.
Well, I try to be good at Google AdWords. Google is the wave of the past and the wave of the future, so they're not going anywhere. So I try hard to be good at web searches for my business. I'm a service company, so a lot of people turn to the internet to find out who they should choose. So I try to be able to be searchable and on paid ads as well. So as far as advertising goes, that's really how I try to market. It's just to be in front of them all the time on the internet, because the other traditional medias don't have as high return on investment as the internet has for me.
This is a fun question. What would you do differently if you could travel back in time and restart but still have the knowledge that you hold today?
When I first started out, I didn't place a lot of value on the review sites, Google, Yelp, Facebook, even with the reviews for service businesses. I was acquiring customers at a rate that those things were not important to me, so I didn't really pay attention. So if somebody put a good review on there, I was happy. If somebody put a bad review, I didn't care, because I was fairly good at Google AdWords, or we were doing TV at the time as well, so I never really cared. But as I've grown, it's tremendous, because if someone's going to hire somebody to come into their home, they need to trust them. And the best way to trust somebody is to look at the reviews of other people who have used your service and are happy with it. So if I could go back in time, I would have really cultivated those things. And when we do a good job, ask the customer to leave a good review, because then you have this long established track record of how you've been a good business for other people in the area. And that would cut down on my future advertising costs, because I wouldn't have to pay to market, because people are going to go to the web anyway. So
Exactly.
for me, the review sites would be something I would focus on immediately. And it took me way too long to grasp the knowledge and the power that those things have.
Awesome. Well, what unique selling points do you offer that other providers or services do not?
I wouldn't say it's unique, but we are focused on one thing, and that's quality. So that's an easy thing to say. It's an easy thing to do to get in the door, but we are quality. So we buy the most expensive equipment. We buy the most expensive chemicals. We buy top of the line stuff so that we can provide a top of the line service to you. So we train our guys. Every step of the way, we try to be top quality. Now, if you're top quality, usually you're not the cheapest. So we are a higher end service company, but we do things along the way to make sure that we can establish why that's important. So I would say that our competitive advantage is quality. And if you're not happy with the service, we give you your money back, because if we couldn't do a good job for you, then I don't want your money. So when you can do that, it helps people trust and believe in you. So that's really how we compete, is or we advertise as quality based.
Definitely. This is actually my favorite question in this whole entire interview. What business owner or entrepreneur do you admire most, and who's your role model?
My favorite entrepreneur is Ben Franklin, actually. A lot of people know inventions and whatnot, but sayings and quotes and stuff, but he was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. He had a whole big printing operation. But the thing I like about Ben Franklin the most is that he was good at what he did, but he didn't limit himself to what he did. Obviously, all the other inventions that we know about and that kind of stuff are interesting, but he was an inventor. He was an entrepreneur. He was a salesman. He was real analytical about a lot of things, taking care of the fellow human, taking care of the fellow customers. It wasn't just, hey, I need to put a product there, sell it. If it works, it doesn't matter. Remember, this was a long time ago. Being customer service based and that thoughtful really impresses me, and that's why I admire him. And he is my role model for an entrepreneur, just for how much he had a grasp on how all these things are important. You may have talked to somebody who's really passionate about what they do, and they know everything about it. But if you ask them about something else, they don't know anything about it. So they're kind of like a zombie. They're just focused into one thing, and to me, that's not the way to go about it. Ben Franklin was an expert at printing. He was an expert salesman. He was an expert at a lot of things, but he could sit down and talk to everybody about everything. And to me, I think that makes you the best entrepreneur, because it's not just selling a product. It's selling you. It's selling the advertising. It's all these things rolled into one. So it's very important.
And this is going to lead me to my last question. What do you wish you'd known before you started your business? That kind of leads back to a couple previous questions ago, but to elaborate on that.
I wish I would have known how hard it was going to be.
Yeah.
You want to set your own schedule. You want to make all the money. You want to be in charge. But I wish I'd have known how much opportunity cost there is, because every dollar I make seems to take away from something else, right? So I have to give up time. I have to give up sanity sometimes. There's a lot of things that I didn't know how hard it was going to be. When people think about starting their own business, they think about, I don't know, the impact that they could have, the legacy that they could have, the money that they'll make. But I think people tend to forget of how hard it can be. Now, I'm not turning people off on that. I'm just, I don't have any kids of my own. But through my employees, I have 10 kids and I have 5 wives. Because every night when I go to sleep, I have to worry about them. Their kids getting braces. Are they going to have presents under the tree? That stuff really sticks with me. So the decisions I make every day don't just affect me and my family and my house. It affects my employees and their wives and their kids. And I take that really seriously. So those months where we were not profitable and I'm pouring cash back into the business, it's not necessarily because I did want the business obviously to continue to go, but it's because you can't ask these people to take a pay cut. You can't give them a haircut, just because you're not, just because the market's down or the city that I'm in was full of oil workers and oil went down. So people got laid off, so they don't have any disposable income. So, it's not my employees' fault for the reason that, we weren't doing as much revenue as we had in the past. But, so to answer your question, it can be tough, but it comes with a great responsibility, and you have to keep that in mind every step of the way, because when you start a business, it's never about you, it's about where you are going, and you can only get there with your employees.
Exactly.
Reverting back to Ben Franklin, he was very big on taking care of his employees. So you can make the decisions, you can make all the money, but they're going to get you there. You can't do every job yourself all the time, so you have to take care of them and do that type of stuff. So I've learned the little things matter, and a gift card here or a paid day off there goes a long way with them for gaining their trust.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to conclude my interview. Thank you.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.